Okay, it's the time you guys have been waiting for. You guys have been asking me to do an entire collection video. I'm gonna split this video up into a few parts, but first let's talk about what I'm carrying today. So today I'm carrying my GEC 35. This one happens to be a special run by Charlie Campagna. And my understanding is the Blade Forms knife, that whatever year this came out, I think 2016, when it came out, they needed more knives to round out the number so they can have the run made. And Charlie ordered, I think, 150 of these in ebony wood. So this is part of his Harness Jack series. It's Harness Jack number 10. And you can see here on the other side, there is the awl, which is what makes it a Harness Jack. So that's what I'm carrying today. But back to what I was saying about the different parts. I'm gonna roll these out. It won't all come out at the same time. So this video here is gonna be on all my modern folders. I'm gonna do another video on all of my fixed blade knives, another video on my traditionals, and then probably one or two more videos covering pins and lights and, you know, all the other odds and ends that I've collected over the years. So let's get started. I'm going to get started with some knives that I only have one of that brand. So the very first knife, and arguably one that most people would tell you you should have in your rotation if you're a serious knife guy, is the Chris Reeve Large Insingo Sabenza. And this one is a 21. You can see very smooth. I bought this one used, I think for like 300 bucks. I've owned many Sabenzas. Didn't have one for a few years. Really regretted not having one. So then I hunted and hunted until I could find one at a good deal. And I got this one at an excellent deal. So like I said, this is a large 21 Insingo Sabenza from Chris Reeve. So S35 VN steel with the higher heat treat. Just a great knife. Great, excellent knife. Next up, again, these are just knives that I only have one from that manufacturer, would be my Rick Hinder FireTac. And I love this knife. I love it a lot more than I should. I never have liked Hinders, and I know a lot of people say that, and there's alternative motives behind that. The way they were made available, you know, business practices, so on and so forth. I mean, I literally, objectively did not like Hinder knives as an object for years, and that was because I was picking up XMs. And I know a lot of people like XMs, but they just never rubbed me the right way. I had owned two XMs. I've borrowed an XM before. I moved from the XMs into a MP1. The MP1 was cool, but I felt like the blade stock was a little bit thick for what it was and for how I want to use that particular knife. And around the same time I got the MP1, I picked up this FireTac, which, if you guys aren't familiar, this used to be a custom model that he now has transitioned over to the production line. One thing I'm looking forward to, this came out before his tri-way pivot system. I'm looking forward to a tri-way pivot in this knife. That would be excellent, excellent. So I'm hoping to see that come soon. Now, I'm going to move on to my other knives, and this is going to get kind of messy because I've got tons and tons of them. So let me start with Spyderco. I've got the Delica Wharncliffe in Hat 40 steel. I've got the Delica Wharncliffe in S30V steel. I have got the Spyderco, I believe this is a 3.5 Cali or Cali 3. I'd have to go back and look, forgive me. This is also in Hat 40. All these are lockback knives. Another thing I never thought I would like, but these models have grown on me. I never have been a lockback guy. I've never been a Wharncliffe or Sheep's Foot guy, but I really have enjoyed these knives. This one is fairly new. This one I've had for a while, haven't carried it a ton, but it does have probably 2 or 3 weeks worth of carry on it. This one, as you can see, I've carried and used a good bit, and I hope you can catch that tape residue and everything on there. This is a great box cutting knife. So I'm gonna go into my pouch and I'll continue the Spydercos. This is the Spyderco Military in 52-100 steel. This is the infamous and elusive Slish Bowie. So if I know everybody knows what that is. Let's see here. I've got the Spyderco Shaman. Honestly, this is one that I liked a lot when I got it. I really wanted them to come out with a different blade steel on the knife. But then the MSRP went up to $180 and I kind of lost interest. And honestly, I haven't carried this knife as much as I would have liked to. So I don't know. That doesn't say anything bad for the knife. That just says, you know, it just hasn't found its way into my pocket for some reason. I have the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 in M4 tool steel. I have the Spyderco Manix 2 in M4 tool steel. And if you guys watch my channel, you know I'm a big fan of tool steels. And I have the latest release of the Paramilitary 2 in Rex 45. Haven't had a chance to put this one through a ton of use, but I picked up a backup here recently, so I'm really gonna put this one in the pocket and start to use it. One thing that is different about this one than my other knives, I hardly ever modify anything, but this knife actually has a Casey Lynch bronzed short titanium clip. So that is my Spyderco collection. So I'm gonna put these back in the sleeve and I will move on to the next manufacturer. So if you guys just bear with me 1 second. Lots of knives here, lots and lots of knives. As you guys can tell, I do like Spyderco. I like Spyderco because I feel as though they push the envelope with steel use, the types of steel they use. I feel like they're very innovative in their designs. I feel like they have a good program in their CQI, their constant quality improvement, I believe is what it stands for, model. I just really enjoy the company overall as a whole. So that's why I have so many Spydercos. All right, let's just pull this off to the side here so we can keep moving. Next up, and I don't have quite as many knives from this company, but I have my Emerson knives. And this right here is the CQC 12, also known as the Comrade. This is modeled off of a bayonet knife. So you can see that there. Fairly rare knife. There haven't been a ton of runs of this knife, and it's fairly sought after. I don't love the combo blade, but honestly with these serrations all the way back here, you've got so much blade up here it doesn't really affect anything. So that's my HD12, also known as the Comrade. This is my Emerson Mini A100, and I should have another. Yep, here's another Mini A100. Like this knife so much I bought a backup. So that's the other Mini A100. This one is from 2017, this one is from 2018. These are discontinued. They no longer have regular production runs, but the past 2 years they've done at least one run each year. And finally, the last one, and a classic, is my Emerson Jungle Commander. I've owned this knife twice before. I had a Frog Lube Commander where on the back of the blade it had like the little skeleton frog and everything from the lubrication company Frog Lube, and I had one that was black with a satin blade, I believe. I bought my dad one at Blade one year. He's got one that's all black. With a partially serrated blade, but I wanted to own, oh, and I had a Jungle Commander too. I sold that one and I wanted to replace it because the newer Emersons have standoffs and I really wanted standoffs. But I came across this knife here, as you can see, because I never could find a good price on one with standoffs. So I ended up buying this one at a good price, and it's the same exact knife I had before, so go figure. We'll close all these up and put them up, and then we'll move on to the next offering. I'll talk a little bit about these while I put them up to fill the time. Obviously, again, I do like Emerson. I've owned many Emersons. I've owned 15s, 12s, Commanders, 7s. You name it, I've pretty much owned a model. Especially if it's a fairly available production model, I've owned it. The one thing I've said before, and I'll say it again here, and I'm not embarrassed to say it, I would buy a knife like the Mini A100 because of its limited availability and because I like that knife so much at full retail. However, in general, I would not buy an Emerson knife at full retail unless it was some kind of limited edition or hard to come by knife. It's not that I don't necessarily think they're worth it. It's just that there's so much savings available to buy on the secondary market. I mean, for example, that Jungle Commander, I believe I picked that Jungle Commander up for like $150 or something like that, $135, something in that ballpark, around $150. That knife retails for like $250. So if you want to leave $100 out there on the table, I mean, that's your prerogative, but just know there's a large savings on the secondary market. Now, we'll get into, I have one other knife that's a one-off, and this is also my only custom knife. This is an El Patron from Calavera Cutlery. Jeremy Robertson makes this knife. This is one of his last iterations with the steel lock bar insert. It's a flipper, well, they used to be full convex grinds. The edge is convexed, but the grind on the blade, the primary grind, is flat. And this is, if you can see it, let's see. This is in PD1 tool steel. So again, I'm a big tool steel guy. So I'll set that one up there. Let's see, we'll get into this and then I'll save my favorite for last. This here is a Benchmade bug out with rock scale design, titanium scales, the ones with the loophole, the lanyard hole. I love these scales. The knife has been great. The scales have been great. I checked the guy out. If you're interested in these scales, again, you'll notice that out of all the knives I've shown so far, there's only this one and the one Spyderco that have been modified. So it says a lot if I buy one of your modified products. Next up is the Benchmade bug out, just regular production. This is my beater bug out. Love this knife. Very comfortable, enough blade to do whatever you want to do, thin enough to be a great slicer, just a good handy general EDC knife blade. And now you already knew that these knives were coming. I'm going to show you guys my Striders. So this right here is, this is an M. Strider. So this is one of the upgraded ones, and this is before he marked them. This is what is known as a hybrid because it has the gunner grip on this side and it has the Lego scale on this side. This knife also has a, I'm blanking, peak gray Zerk lock bar stabilizer. So I'll let you kind of get a look at that there. And you'll notice that on a few of my Striders. I like to put them on there. I like Zerk. This blade is in PSF 27. It's kind of like D2 tool steel. Really enjoy this knife a lot. If you look here, you can see some of the improvements that Mick made and has continued to make. The lock bar has a relief cut here. The laser etching is super sharp. And just all of the details are just very, very, very refined from what the knives used to be. Not that the other knives were bad. These knives are just a little bit more refined. Next up is my True North Knives Edition SMF in Ranger Green. That was also Ranger Green gunner grip. This is Lego, which just means it's blocky. Again, that peak gray Zerk lock bar stabilizer. This one is in CPM 154. You can see that there. Obviously a user. It's got a wicked edge on it. All polished up. Love this knife. This knife has seen me through a lot of different situations. This is my favorite of all. This is my Ranger Green, and if you can't pick up the theme on Striders, I like Ranger Green Striders. This is my Ranger Green S&G 3/4 ground in Z-Wear tool steel. These were pretty limited. They came out maybe, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Love this knife. I've literally used this knife for anything and everything, and this is the knife that's in my pocket if I'm doing any kind of work. Putting in water heaters, doing work around the house, remodel the full kitchen with that knife. Just a great knife and something I enjoy carrying and using. This right here is my second M. Strider, and this one actually says M. Strider. This is the S&G Fatty with the aluminum scale Lego. You can see here again just the refinements. These not thumb studs, but blade stops here. You can see how they're rounded. You can see how they're polished. You can see again how that etching is just razor sharp. This one is a misprint. It says CTS 20CV, but that is a mismark. The first batch came out with the wrong marking. You can see here again the continuation of that improved milling. Just a great knife. They flip the screws to this side so they're hidden, so all the screws are on one side, and it gives a more sleek profile. This is a thicker blade. I'll show you if the camera will focus. This is an S&G next to an S&G, but you can see that this S&G has an SMF blade thickness. So that's something that was pretty cool that came out at Blade this year. This is my Crusader, and it's called a Crusader because of the cross here. This is my Crusader S&G, also in Ranger Green. Ghost stripes, which means that the blade was stonewashed, and then they went back and bead blasted the stripes on it. This one is in S30V steel. Again, another one that I use, another good knife that I like. This here is another S&G. And strangely enough, I've shown you more S&Gs than SMFs, but I really prefer the SMF size. Well, it's a toss-up, but I love my SMFs just as much as I love my S&Gs. This is a full flat round black scale, one of the only black scale Striders I have. Because this is a hard knife to come by, they haven't made full flat round Tontos in quite some time. And you can see here by the stamp, you can see kind of the evolution that they've come from. This is one of the earlier models in S30V, not quite old enough to have the Boss Heat Treat stamp, but you can even see how faint that Strider stamp is. And then if you go back to, like I said, this is one of the latest Striders, and look how crisp the etching is on these here. I mean, it's amazing the improvements that Mick and the crew have made. So this is a full flat round S&G. This one here is a Tiger Stripe blade, which means that the blade started off as a black oxide coated blade, and then they bead blasted some of the black oxide off. So that is that. This is a dual gunner grip with Strider flage, S&G. In Ranger Green. This one I had to hunt for 2 years. I had one of these that had the regular digi camo pattern on here, and I sold it like an idiot. I have no clue why. I was just looking around one day on the classifieds, happened to stumble across this knife, got it for an excellent price. Don't really carry it as much as I should, but this is just a great blade. I mean, look at that finish. Look at those the Strider flage here, just great. I mean, I love that finish. And well, not finally, I've got two more. This is my, well, let's see. This is my Strider, I'm blanking again here, Baby Huey. I can't think of the numeric name. I apologize. This is my Baby Huey SJ75. That's it. This is my Strider SJ75S, or Baby Huey. Very thinly ground blade. Excellent knife. There's some dragon spine pattern on the back. This looks like a very weird knife, but it really fits in the hand well. It cuts well. It's an excellent knife. You don't see these all the time too often, but this is one of the ones that I bought several times too. I had one that was Coyote Brown. It was one of the early hand ground models, and I hate Coyote Brown, so I sold it, and then I ended up finding this one later at a good deal in Ranger Green. So great knife. I love it a lot. And now finally is my Strider PT. And you don't see these knives a lot. I don't believe these are discontinued, but you don't see them put out a lot. Mick was putting out some customs or performance series for a while. Haven't seen those in a while either. This knife has a lot of sentimental value to me. As you guys know, I'm part of the Usual Suspect Network, and this was one of the knives that I passed around when I first got on the Usual Suspect Network. It went around the country for about a year. It went to about 15 or 20 Usual Suspect Network members, and as you can see, it came back well used. but not broken or damaged or anything. This has never been in the Strider for any repair. And the only thing I did, this is just plain old S35 steel or S30 steel. And then the only thing I did when I got it back was strap it up. Excellent stuff, excellent stuff. So those are my Strider knives. Well, that's my regular modern folders, and I'm gonna cover my fixed blades on the next series. So I'm probably gonna release this one today, which is Saturday the 18th, and then the next one will probably come 1 week. So it'll be a 3-part series over 3 weeks probably. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope I didn't ramble too much. You guys told me you wanted a video. You didn't mind long videos. Here you go, 20 minutes of video. I appreciate you guys. Always remember, a lazy man carries a dull knife.